Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello, my name is Ariana Dewitrani from Banking and Finance. My ID number 20650005.
My name is Rizka Dinda Puspita, NPM 206500017. I am from Banking and Finance.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Atina Sabilhaq, ID number 206500009 from Banking of Finance.
Economic terms from G to I. Economic terms start with G. A. G7, G8, G10, G21, G22, G26. The G7, also known as the G7 or Group of Seven, is a meeting of finance ministers from a group of seven industrialist countries. It was formed in 1976 when Canada joined a six-person group: France, Germany, Italy, Japan, United Kingdom, and United States. The finance ministers of these countries meet several times a year to discuss economic policy. Their work is supported by regular and functional meetings of officials including G7 finance deputies. B. Game theory. It is a mathematical method for making decisions in competitive situations that zero analysts to determine the optimal course of action for interested parties, which is often used in the political, economic, and military fields, also called game theory. C. GATT. GATT is an agreement signed in 1947 whose goal is to promote global trade between members to reduce tariffs. D. GDP, Gross Domestic Product, a level of economic activity in a country. It is calculated by adding up the value of a country's total annual production of goods and services. E. Gearing, the company's debt is stated as a percentage of its equity, also known as leverage. F. General Agreement of Tariff and Trade, or GATT, a vehicle for promoting international free trade through a series of negotiations rounds between trade governments. The first round of GATT began in 1945. The last one led to the formation of a World Trade Organization in 1995. G. General Equilibrium, Economic Perfection. This is when demand and supply are in balance. The market is in equilibrium for every good and service in the economy. Nobody thought that the real world economy could be that perfect. At best there is partial equilibrium, but most economists think that general equilibrium is something to aspire to. H. Generational accounting is a relatively new way of analyzing fiscal policy by identifying the financial costs and benefits of government policies on people of different ages who are now alive or who are about to the world. I. Given goods. In both economic and consumer theory, the good that people give more consumes as prices go up, violating the law of demand. J. Gilts. Gilt is a risk-free bond issued by the British government. It is the equivalent of the U.S. Treasury Department. K. Gini coefficient. This is an indicator of gap. The Gini coefficient measures the inequality of income distribution within a country. It varies from zero, indicating perfect equality, with each income family being exactly the same, to one implying absolute equality with a single household earning across countries. L. Global public goods. The global public goods is a good that has the following three characteristics. 1. It is no match. Anyone's consumption of this good does not reduce the amount available to others against. 2. This is non-essential. It's impossible to prevent anyone from consuming that good. 3. It is available worldwide. And globalization. Globalization is the process by which the economies of countries around the world become more and more integrated over time. And GNI, abbreviation for gross national income, the term currently used instead of GNP and national accounts. O, GNP, abbreviation for gross national product, another measure of a country's economic performance. It is calculated by adding to GDP the income earned by the population from abroad investment, reducing the corresponding income sent home by foreign residents living in the country. P. Gold. For most of human history, gold has been an important ingredient in economic activity, but its importance declined during the 20th century and may continue to surge in the future. The gold standard, which fixed the exchange rate to the value of gold during the 19th and early 20th centuries, has long been abandoned. Key gold standard. A gold standard is a monetary system in which the standard unit of currency is a fixed quantity of gold or is freely convertible to gold at a fixed price. R. Golden Rule. During the economic cycle, the government must borrow only to invest and not to finance current expenditures. This rule is centrally a prudent approach to fiscal policy, provided the governments are honest in describing spending as investment, that they invest in what is appropriate and so efficiently, and that they are careful to avoid the push for superior profit investment. But there are other fiscal policy options that might make more sense. For example, a balanced budget. S. Government. There are several hotly debated topics in the economic field other than what role the state should play in the economy. Many economists provided intellectual support for state intervention during the era of great governments, particularly from the 1930s to the 1980s. Keynesians argued that the state must manage the amount of demand in the economy in order to maintain full employment. Others advocate a common economy in which the government will decide the price level, over the allocation of scarce resources, and exercises the most important part of the economy, head of a common, or in communist countries, the entire economy, the role of the state increases at the expense of market force. Economists provide many examples of market failures that seem to confirm this.
T. Government expenditure atau pengeluaran pemerintah. It is used by national and local government and some government-supported agencies. U. Greenspan Allen. He is the most famous of all central bank boss. So far a farmer jazz musician turned economist. He became chairman of the board of governors of the American Federal Reserve in 1987, not long before Wall Street collapsed. In 2003, he was reappointed until 2005, where he won the award of providing a monetary policy that helped reduce inflation and create the condition for strong economic growth. Some people consider him the closest thing capitalist has to God. V. Gresham's Law atau Hukum Gresham. It is the economic principle proposed by British financier Sir Thomas Gresham that bad money pushes good money out of circulation. W. Growth atau pertumbuhan. Adam Smith attributes growth to the invisible hand, a view shared by most followers of classical economics. Neoclassical economics has a different theory of growth, which was developed by Robert Slow during the 1950s. This implies that a sustained increase in investment increases the rate of economic growth only temporarily. The ratio of capital to labor increases, the marginal product of capital decreases, and the economy moves back onto a long-term growth path. Start with AIDS, a hard currency atau mata uang keras. This is money you can trust. A hard currency is expected to retain its value or even benefit from a reward against the softer currencies. This makes it a popular choice for people involved in international transactions. The dollar, the mark, sterling, and Swiss francs were edges of the hard currencies, if only for some time during the 20th century. B. Hawala. The hawala is an ancient system of moving money based on truth, older than Western bank practice. See Hayek Friedrich. He was an influential economic at the Austrian school, who won the Nobel Prize for Economics in 1974 because his theory of the business circle many years after this work seemed to be debunked by Keynes. Born in 1899, Hayek studied at his village, Vienna University after the First World War. He was interested in socialism until he read the pioneering Austrian economic, Ludwig von Mises, on the substance, after which he said, the world is never the same again. Di hedging atau pagar, reduce your risks. Hedging involves deliberately taking new risks that will reduce existing risks, such as exposure to adverse changes in exchange rates, interest rates, or commodity price. Hedge fund atau pengelola investasi global. Hedge funds are private investment fund open to a limited range of investors that are permitted by an author's regulator to carry out a wider range or activities than other investment funds and also pay performance fees to investment managers. Higher-Findal Hersman Index. The Higher-Findal Index, also known as the Higher-Findal-Hersman Index of PHI, is a measure of companies in relation to industries and an indicator of the amount of competition between them. Horizontal equity atau ekuitas horizontal. This is a theory which states that people with the same income should be taxed at the same rate. 8. Horizontal integration atau integrasi horizontal. This is when a company expands its business into a different product that is similar to its current path. I. Hot money atau uang panas. It this money that its owner move rapidly from one form of investment to another to take advantage of change in international exchange rates or to get high short-term returns on investment. J. House price, harga-harga rumah. When they go through the roof, it is usually a sign of hitting that the economy is too hot. Home price often rise after a reduction in interest rates, thereby reducing mortgage payment and thus giving buyers the ability to fund a loan is larger amount, thus offering a higher price for their new home. K. Human capital atau modal manusia. Human capital is a skill acquired by a worker through formal education and experience that increase the productivity of the worker and increase his income. L. Human Development Index atau Indeks Pembangunan Rumah. The Human Development Index atau HDI is an index that combines measures of normal life expectancy, literature, national achievement, and GDP per capita for countries around the world. M. Hyperinflation atau hiperinflasi. That is very high monetary inflation, very, very bad. Although people argue when to be precise, fast inflation becomes hyperinflationary inflation, a price increase of 100% or more in a year. Could it happen? No one questions that it causes major economic damage. And hypothecation atau hipotesis. A recent use of the word was the presentation of hypothetical dedications, such as dedicated text that is collected for a specific purpose. An example of a hypothesis in the latter sense includes the gasoline tax in the United States, which is used to finance transportation infrastructure, or hysteresis. Some economic systems show sake of hysteresis. For example, export performance is subject to a strong hysterical effects. It might take a big both a sizable change in incentives to initiate in countries export, but once the transition is made, not much might be needed to maintain the country's stability. Mixed terms start with I. A. Income atau pendapatan. It is the amount of money received over a period of time in exchange for labor of service from the sale of goods or property or as a gain on a financial investment. B. Income effects atau efek pendapatan. In economics, the effect on the purchasing power of the consumer is due to change in the price of the good he consumes. If the price of bill falls, consumers have money left over to buy more other goods, as well as more beef. C. Income tax, pajak penghasilan, a highly hated method of taxation based on income. The city was first collected in 1797 by the Dutch Batavian Republic. In England, it was introduced in 1799 as a provisional measure to finance the war against Napoleon, which was abolished in 1816 and reintroduced forever in 1842. The incumbent advantage. Incumbent advantage is the profit earned by someone who is already in a position compared to a newcomer.
A. Index number. In econometric, a number reflects a change in value or quantity compared to a standard or a basic. The base is equal to 100 and the index number is usually expressed use a percentage. For example, if commodity price had doubled in 1970 as they were in 1960, the total index in 1960 would be 200 compared to 1960. F. Indexation. Automatic adjustment of economic variable such as wages, taxes, or pension benefit to the cost of living index so that the variable increase or decrease according to the rate of inflation. G. Indifference curve. It is a curve joining together a combination of goods and services that will each give the customer the same amount of satisfaction or utility. In other words, customers do not care which combination they get. H. Indirect taxation. Indirect taxation is a tax such as sales tax or value-added tax that is imposed on goods or services rather than individually and is ultimately paid by the customer in the form of a higher price. E. Inelastic. This is when the supply or demand for something is insensitive to change in other forms, such as price. G. Inequality. Economic growth in general has reduced inequality within the country. This is partly due to the redistribution and benefit tax system, has become so significant that it has led to slow growth in some countries. K. Interior goods. Goods that are inferior are goods they are consumed less or not more as the customer income increases. L. Inflation. Inflation is the rate at which general price for goods and services increase, and after that purchasing power fall. Inflation usually refers to customer price, but it cannot also be applied to other price or goods, wages, assets, and so on. M. Inflation target. Inflation targeting is monetary policy in which the central bank tries to keep inflation within a stated target range usually by adjusting interest rates. N. Information. The oil that keeps the economic running smoothly, economic efficiently, is likely to be criticized if information is available, comprehensive. accurately and cheaply. Many of the problems facing the economic areas from people making decisions without all the information they need. One of the reasons for the failure of the common economic is that administration planners are not good at gathering and processing information. Oh, infrastructure, transportation, communications, water, and electricity system are all part of the infrastructure. These systems tend to be high-cost investment but are necessary for a country to function and be productive. P. Innovation. Innovation is the basic driver for behind entrepreneurship and the creation of small businesses. Key. Insider trading. This is the practice of buying and selling shares in company stock by company's management or board of directors or by holders of more than 10 of the company's shares, a practice that was made illegal in the United States in 1934 and in the UK in 1980 and in banned from sharing in most countries. R. Institutional investor. This is a non-bank person or organization that trades securities in a sufficiently large number of shares or dollars that they quality for preferential treatment and lower commission. Institutional investor push for safeguard because it is assumed that they are more knowledge and better able to protect themselves. As insurance. In economic terms, anything used to reduce it is best known from insurance is provided through a policy purchased from an insurance company. Fee. Intangible asset. These are assets that are not physical in nature. Company intellectual property or items such as patent, trademarks, copyright, business methodologies, goodwill and brand recognition are all common assets on the market today. U. Intellectual capital. Intellectual capital includes the trade value or trademarks, license, brand names, formulation, and patents. V. Interest. Interest is money paid for the use of money expressed as a percentage of the time period used generally and manual rate. W. Interest rate. This is a percentage of the amount of money that is charged for its use. The rate usually expressed as a percentage per year of the money borrowed is charged. The interest rate may be variable or fixed. Next, international aid. This is aid to poor countries from rich countries. They are at least is the intention. In fact, in most cases, medical assistance is of little use to potential recipients or import health carries a network exception and sometimes exacerbates the problem. E. Intervention. This is when central banks try to influence exchange rate by buying the currency they want to appreciate and selling the one they want to weaken. Z. Investment. This is putting money to work in the hope of earning even more money. Investment take two main forms: direct expense on building, machinery and so on, and indirect expense and financial securities such as bond and stock. Double A. Invisible hand. It is Adam Smith acronym for the free market ability to allocate factors of production, goods, and services to their most available use. WB, invisible trade. It's the export of import of things you cannot touch or see. Service like banking or advertisement and other intangible like copyright. WC, inward investment. Investment for about the opposite of foreign investment.